Hey everyone, it is Michelle Malkin. You are joining me today, Monday, after the Independence Day holiday, on hashtag Malkin Live. And I thought it would be a fantastic way to kick things off with a young rising star, an independent citizen journalist who's been catching my eye for many, many months now, but really just made me cheer out loud, leap out of my seat when I watched her at a recent one-woman demonstration on behalf of the police in Texas. And I want to see if I can share a little bit of the video on her website. It is Savannah Hernandez. Let's see if this will come up. All right, take a look at this, guys.
Get the fuck out of here, you stupid bitch! This isn't the fucking place for that! Get the fuck out of here! You look like a fucking idiot! You look like a fucking idiot, you stupid bitch! Get that shit out of my fucking face! Get that shit out of my fucking face! Get the fuck out of here! Black lives don't matter? No, bitch! Police lives don't matter, bitch! Black lives matter, bitch! Get the fuck out of here with your stupid shit! Get the fuck out of here with your stupid ass sign. You look like a fucking idiot. Get the fuck out of here. I don't give a fuck, bitch. Suck my dick. Get the fuck out of here. You look like a stupid
Horrible. I'm going to forward it a little bit. Watch this.
What you've heard, because this is extremely distressing to me. Whoa, whoa. Hey, stop. I need you to stop.
Amazing. Let me bring her in right now. Hi, Savannah.
Hi, Michelle. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for standing up. We saw some major girl power there. And I got to say, when I did literally jump out of my seat was when you did this,
The shoulder check.
So that was the beginning of this month. I mean, it was just a couple of weeks ago, right?
Yeah, I think it was actually just about a week ago.
Yeah. And this was Texas?
Austin, Texas.
The blue dot.
Exactly. And that's why I wanted to do it too, just because, we're the capital of Texas, and also we're a very, very liberal city. And everyone here has been putting on so many BLM demonstrations. Our city council allowed them to write Black Austin Matters across our downtown. And I was just like, you know what? Someone needs to stand up against this because it's not okay. I'm done with our police officers being attacked. I'm done. And you know what? Actually, the final straw was for me was there was a big protest outside of the APD. They took down the American flag and the Texas flag. They burned it and they put up the Antifa flag and a BLM flag. And that was the final straw for me. And that's why I was finally like, all right, we're going to go stand up against this because it's not okay.
You're a brave woman. I mean, it really was a one-woman show there. And what was remarkable, too, and I know you've talked about this as well on your Twitter feed, was there were actually some decent people. You saw at the end of the clip that I showed people, of course, that there were some people who intervened on your behalf.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to show with this clip, too, especially. It was like an LGBTQVLM rally. I'm not even sure. I was on the outskirts of it because, they were rallying. It was a busy street. And I was like, all right, I'm not going to disrupt them. I'm going to be peaceful here. I'm not even going to chant. I'm going to stand here silently with my sign. And it was, I think, 2 drag queens that came and really came to my defense. And they were like, we don't agree with your sign. We don't like what you're here standing for, but we agree with your First Amendment right and your freedom of speech. And I really appreciated that. And I wanted to showcase that because, we are in such a time where America is so divided. So it was really nice to see someone who didn't agree with me actually care about the First Amendment for everyone.
Yeah, right. Now, your sign on one said, Police Lives Matter. And on the other side, it was a tribute to the slain Missouri retired captain from New Orleans PD, David Dorn. And how long were you there on the corner holding up the sign?
I was probably there for about an hour and a half, maybe even 2 hours. I kind of lost track of time. But, I went there, and like I said too, I really only took myself and a friend with me. He's the one that's on camera, and I was like, hey, because everyone was telling me, like, if you go, just at least take one other person, preferably a guy. So I took him with me, and I said, hey, let's just go. I want this to be very peaceful. We're not going to go infiltrate their rally at all. We're going to be on the outside of it. We're not going to chant like I'm telling you right now, and I've said previously. And it really took 5 minutes for that woman to come up to me and just start screaming in my face. And it's just so funny to me too, because, the whole COVID thing's going on and everyone's like, you need to wear a face mask. They just implemented a $250 fine here in Austin if you don't wear one. And so everyone is screaming in my face as close as possible that I need to wear a face mask and I'm putting their lives at risk. So I'm like, okay, well then keep your 6 feet of distance. And if you don't like my sign, then don't read it.
Yeah, that's right. So what do you make of this entire spate of videos that we've been seeing of people that are in your generation? I mean, it's disgusting, the hatred, the vitriol that we're seeing face to face. A lot of college grads, a lot of Zoomers, spitting almost literally, right, despite the face mask orders, at police officers of every color. I mean, you've seen young, privileged, elitist, white, liberal women screaming at Black officers. You've seen Black Lives Matter militants accusing Black and brown and yellow police officers of being traitors to their race. A lot of people will blame the university system. Do you agree with that, or does it go even deeper than that?
I think it goes even deeper than that. I think at the surface level, and with many of the people we are seeing at these protests and rallies, it is the universities. Because I just came out of university too. I graduated when I was 20 and I was the same exact way. Oh, I have a heart. So of course I agree with Black Lives Matter, because on the surface, it seems like a great organization. But if you go back, and I was just watching a documentary about the 92 Rodney King riots and everything that was going on back then, it is the exact same thing that's happening here in 2020. And it happens every single election year. So yes, the universities are to blame, but historically, we've seen this happen time and time again. And it is a very much political thing. Every single election year, we have these race-baiting headlines. We have these riots. We have this destruction. We have this complete division in our country. Because again, I mean, that's the whole point of the government, not the whole point of the government, but I feel like in terms of the Democratic Party, that's what they have really tried to utilize and use to keep America divided and to, further bring in bigger government is the racial division, the racial divide. And that's why we've seen it time and time again. Yeah.
So we talked about this a little bit off air, but I want to talk about it with you more in depth. And that is making this cost benefit calculation of literally risking your life to stand up for the things that you believe in. And it really resonated with me when you talked about how the flags were torn down at the APD building, because last summer, that was the impetus for me to organize Stand With ICE rallies across the country. At the Aurora ICE facility, the American flag had been torn down and replaced with a Mexican flag and an anti-police, just disgusting piece of cloth.
Yeah.
And at that time, there were many establishment types, and I want to get your take on this too. Establishment Republicans, the keyboard warriors, the con inkers who spend all day complaining about the culture war, the need to stand up, but will not put their own boots on the ground. And, we can't recommend this to everyone because not everyone is like us. I feel like a kinship with you, because when I saw you out there, like all sassy, I'm like, you go, girl, that's me. Like there's something in our Constitution where we can't help it. And when I did a Defend Our Monuments rally here in Colorado Springs, my own family didn't want me to do it. My husband didn't want me to do it. And yet, I don't know, how do you explain that? Like we can't just sit by. But at the same time, you can't recommend it to people who, first of all, aren't prepared for what might happen. I mean, you look like you could handle it. You know what I mean? What do you recommend that people do?
So I will say this, and I completely understand what you're feeling in terms of like your own family not wanting you to go out and do these things, because my family's kind of the same way. They're like, don't go and instigate, don't go out there knowing that, things could happen or you could get hurt. And even further, I mean, so many people on Twitter were like, hey, when are you going back out to support the police again? I would love to join you. And I've been very hesitant to, organize another rally, because again, I do know that we may be going there peacefully, but there are militant people, there are Antifa members who literally cannot read a sign without lashing out violently. But, like you said, at the end of the day, what it really comes down to is I care about this country so much, and I care about actually putting weight into my words. That's why I went and did it. And, you use the term keyboard warriors, and that term in itself is one that I'm glad that we bring light to and we push on people, because that's exactly what it is. And I felt the exact same way. I was sitting there like, I support the police. This is wrong. I don't like what's going on in Minneapolis. But I was like, this doesn't mean anything. Twitter is not real life. Twitter is not real life. And that's the one thing that I hope people understand. Instagram is not real life. Twitter is not real life. And unless you actually go outside and stand up for what you believe in, you're not going to make a change, because BLM shows up. Antifa shows up, and they show up in numbers, which is why Black Lives Matter is painted across the downtowns of all of our big cities across the nation, because they show up. And so conservatives need to do the same exact thing. And again, Twitter's a great tool for informing people, for getting things across. But at the end of the day, unless you actually put action into your words, they hold no merit.
Amen. I'm with you. And there are more and more people like us, especially in the last couple of weeks. We've had traditional Catholic prayer warriors in St. Louis, for example, showing up at the statue there every single night, praying the Hail Mary. And I was tickled to see that there was a Filipino Catholic contingent show up as well with their big statue of Mary. It was fantastic. And then we're seeing, I think, more men stand up as well. There was Italian Americans in Fishtown, Philadelphia, guarding the Columbus statue. Of course, there was no one around in Baltimore this weekend when the Columbus statue was hurled into the inner harbor with the assent and approval of the city so-called leaders there. And then in some flyover states like Idaho, I saw a big counter protest. I think they outnumbered, the citizens outnumbered BLM by 10-1 or something in Boise. Well, they should, right? And then in Provo, Utah, after that terrible shooting, there were citizens that came forward. The problem here, of course, is that the risk that you take is, A, the police are not going to be there to protect you. I mean,
exactly.
Right? That was the case with you. And then B, if you do exercise your Second Amendment rights, you could end up in prison for defending yourself. And that's the plight of Stephen Baca right now in New Mexico that I've been advocating for. What do you say to women in particular? I mean, and we half joke, but I mean, you really do look like you can defend yourself. Have you been seeing or hearing more young women getting interested in learning how to use a gun?
Definitely, and myself included, because Michelle, and I hate to say this, but I'm not a gun owner myself. And seeing all of this unfold has made me very passionate about this. And I've talked to so many people too, who again are just like me. They didn't like guns, they didn't want to get a gun, but seeing all this unfold, okay, I need to get a gun, especially if you're a female living on your own. It's so important because, again, that is the great equalizer for men and women. Women, to be able to defend themselves, need to have, the ability to do that. And a gun is a great way to be able to. So there is a very big movement of people starting to get armed. And we've seen all the statistics that gun sales are the highest that they've ever been after this year, which again is a great thing because we should be able to defend themselves. You talked about St. Louis earlier, that couple in St. Louis who defended their property. I think that was a great thing because that was their private property. That was their home. And we have our constitutional right to defend ourselves and protect ourselves. So we should be able to exercise that. And before I get off of this too, you mentioned at the beginning, just, being a woman and going out and protesting. And I do want to say this as well. I think that because I'm a woman, it's easier for me to go and do these types of things. I feel like if it was a man going out and protesting, I don't know if let me see how to phrase this. I guess them getting attacked would probably be higher than my, I guess, what am I trying to say here, Michelle? Like, I think men would get attacked more than women would.
I think you're right. Yeah.
So that's why as a woman, it's easier for me to go out and protest. I mean, keep in mind, I'm still getting attacked, but I think like when people see a woman getting attacked, they're going to go defend them more than if a man gets attacked. So as a woman, I think that we have power too to go and use our voices, because just the way that our society is structured, I think that it is still easier for women to go and have their voices heard without being as brutally attacked as a man would.
I think in general, you're right about that. But, and it is so true that Twitter is not real life. But to the extent that it exposes to us what's going on the ground, remember the Michigan pregnant woman.
Right.
And, taking that video from the very beginning, which is often cut off, she was trying to get away from that woman, right? Just like Stephen Baca was trying to get away from the mob in New Mexico. And I'm so glad that you invoked 92 and the Rodney King riots, because that's how I cut my teeth. I was in my early 20s. That was the first big, huge conflagration that I covered as a young journalist. And I cut my teeth in Los Angeles in the aftermath of those riots. And I have to say that these times now far outweigh, the pathologies that erupted in 1992, and the factor that's different, of course, is social media. And the hatred, it's just instigating every single day the lies that are being perpetuated by most of the corporate mainstream media on this. I mean, we wake up every day to it, right? And so I agree with you in a sense that we as women can leverage the power that we do have. And to the extent that we have some sort of immunity from the kind of craziness that men will face if they do this, that's why there has to be strength in numbers. And
exactly.
And you just tweeted out that you are going to be doing another pro-police event in Texas. Tell us about that.
Yes, so I'll be there this Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. and I'll just be in front of the Austin Police Department. And what inspired me to do that was, again, I had so many people reaching out to me, but because I did get attacked in that first video, I was nervous to organize because I don't want other people to get attacked, and I don't want other people to potentially have to use their Second Amendment in self-defense. I don't want a situation like that to happen. But again, at the same time, Black Lives Matter and Antifa do not own these streets. We as conservatives have a constitutional right to stand up for our First Amendment whenever we want to and wherever we want to. Nobody owns these streets, which is why I'm going back to APD, and I'm going to go stand there in solidarity with my police here locally and nationwide. And, it was a great thing to see too, because I was at a rally that next weekend after that video had come out, and an APD officer stopped me and said, "Hey, I saw your video, thank you." And that made it all worth it for me, because after I went out and shot that video, or not even shot the video, but just went and held the sign and the video came out, it's always kind of hard for me to go viral. It's a little bit difficult. I always feel a little bit conflicted, like, oh gosh, am I showing the right side here? But so many police officers came and they sent me messages of support, and police officers here locally said, "Thank you for standing up. Like, we needed that message of support." It made it all worth it for me. And that's why I'm going back out this Wednesday, because I know there's a lot of people in this city and across the nation that want to stand up. They're just scared to be that first person to do it because they don't want to be attacked. But like you said, Michelle, there's so much strength in numbers. And even if you just have 3 other friends with you, if you have a small group standing up for the police are going to appreciate it, and there's going to be more strength in those numbers.
Absolutely. So your work can be found on Sav Says, which is your YouTube channel. And people can see that video that we opened up with if they haven't seen it already, as well as your other work. And you've been doing a lot of vital work. You travel across the country. What other stories are you working on?
Right now, I'm just really focused on gathering all of the videos up of people who are just tired of being attacked and tired of sitting down against these riots. And I'm working on a video compilation of that because what I want to do, like I said, right now is the time for us to start shifting the narrative and start showing other people that other people are going to stand up. And if you want to stand up, now's the time to do it, and don't be afraid to do that. So that's what I'm going to be working on the next upcoming weeks is don't feel like you're alone in this fight, because you're not. I know things seem really drastic right now, and it seems like we're very outweighed in terms of, all of the people in the streets, but it doesn't have to be that way. And we talk about that silent majority. It's time for us not to be silent anymore. If you're really out there, stand up, because now is the time to do it.
Whose streets? Our streets.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Our streets. And I want to urge everyone who's watching either on the Twitter live stream or on YouTube, and this will be up, as a permanent video as well. If you're in the Austin area, and you are a man who loves this country, I want you to show up and be there for Savannah, because Savannah has been standing up for America. You are such a shining star, and I'm so glad that we got to do this and got to connect and know each other. I am praying for you. And I know, like I said, that we are the same. We're cut from the same cloth. You know what I mean?
Michelle, everyone always told me, they were like, you're like a young Michelle Malkin. And I was like, who is this Michelle Malkin? I need to look her up. And you've been my hero ever since. So this is a dream come true. And, I really feel your fighting spirit for America. And I appreciate everything that you do. And you inspire so many young people like me. And, you inspired me. I hope to inspire one other person. And hopefully that one person inspires somebody else. And that's how we're going to start this chain reaction. We're going to take America back.
No kidding. We are a virus more potent than COVID-19 for sure.
10 out of 10.
All right. Follow Savannah Hernandez on Twitter at @sav_says_. And we will be following you, of course, on Wednesday and every day that you are fighting for America. Take care, Savannah.
Thank you, Michelle.
Bye.